Good morning or good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. I'm Nicole, and I am going to be joined in just a moment here with Michele Wisla, who is a health coach. She is an expert in getting toxins out of your kitchen, including plastic, and we're going to talk about where to start today because it can be really overwhelming. Okay, hi, welcome. Good morning if you are on the East Coast. I'm Nicole. I'm with Purely Planet, I'm a plant-based dietitian and curious learner of this topic, just creating more sustainable, healthy habits for our kitchen spaces and environment. What's good for us is typically better for the planet too. So we're going to be talking today about getting plastic out of your kitchen, where to start, where it's hidden, why it's important. And there are going to be 3 concepts Michele will address and answer any of our questions. So I am coming with questions too. I'm excited for Michele to join us. But yeah, so let me know where you're calling in from. And Michele should be here in a moment, or where you're calling in from, where you're tuning in from. I'm in Atlanta. Good morning, Daniel. We're talking about plastics today in the kitchen, which will extend really to anywhere in your home, but how to remove them, what's the smartest way to remove them, where to start, what's most cost effective. It's a time where everything seems so expensive right now. It's so expensive right now. So hi, good morning. So we're just gonna talk about the simplest and most cost-effective ways to start. Michelle's calling in from Thailand, which I'm really excited about. She's in Phuket. So it was interesting trying to coordinate times. Let me turn off my notifications. There we go. So just curious, while we're waiting for Michele, if you want to let me know in the comments, is there anything in particular you want to talk about with plastics, or anything you're trying to change in your kitchen, whether it's your cooking utensils or your cookware, which may have chemical coatings on it, or your maybe food storage. I know that was one of the things first to go for me. I literally will probably talk about this, but I have more of these reusable containers than I know what to do with. Literally, if you open up my cabinets behind me, they will probably come tumbling out. So if you're in Atlanta and you want, these are all sterilized. But yeah, follow your heart, kimchi, all these glass containers that I use for everything, because 1, it reduces waste going to the landfill, or, of course this could be recycled, but it's easy to reuse them. They're safe, it's glass, and it's cost effective. I don't have to buy mason jars. All right, Michele is here. Let's see, Michele, can you request to come into the live? I see you're here. Michele is also a women's health coach, similar to what I do. We're just helping to elevate and empower women to make all the best decisions for their health, for their family's health, for the environment around them. So we very much work in the same vein. Okay, here comes Michele. All right, excited to get started. Hi, Michele.
Close. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, I used the external mic, and I wasn't sure how that was going to work because I don't remember if I used it when I went live before or not. But
You sound great.
Better. Great. Okay.
Good
to see
good.
you. This is so much fun.
I'm so excited. So yeah, thanks for joining and suggesting this. When just to let you all know, I posted something about plastic last week. The week before last. And Michele was like, I have a certification in this area. And Michele and I know each other from a plant-based coaching program from years ago. And we met, yay, the revolution. And where Michele became a plant-based coach through this program. And we just have stayed in touch online. And it's so fun that you're in Thailand, and it's 8:00 in the evening for you right now?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I'm over here in normally sunny Phuket, although it's rainy season right now. But yeah, but it's 8 p.m. now.
Okay, yeah. The coordinating the time thing, at first I was like, how do we do this? And we're like,
Yeah.
together, but it worked out, and it's your evening, and it's yeah, 9 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I'm excited. So wherever you're tuning in from, welcome, whether it's evening or morning your time. We're going to talk about all things plastics in the kitchen today. I'm so excited. We're all so excited to learn from you, Michelle. When you said you're an expert in this area, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do a live. This is great because I think this is important. One, people are, I think what's, I guess, good and not so good is that there's a lot more awareness. It's good that there's more awareness, but the reason that there's more awareness is because there's more and more research coming out about the effects of plastic and the exposure and what it can do for our health, for the planet, for wildlife. Just so many. It's just not, and it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere, so it can become overwhelming. And like, where do I start? How do I avoid it? And I think this it's just so important to have this conversation, to raise awareness and to decrease that overwhelm and offer practical ways that we can get started because every little bit helps. So we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I've always kind of been a geek and a nerd about this kind of stuff. Just like my food, it carries over. And I always felt uncomfortable talking about it because, like you get the rolled eyes and people thinking like, oh, you're a little paranoid. But that was
Yeah.
before a lot of the information came out, like you say, in the last couple of years, we're finally starting to know about it, which I think is really good because
Yeah.
it was still there whether we knew about it or not,
Right.
Um,
Yes. It's so important that there's more research, and very grateful for all of the scientists that are doing that research and exposing the dangers of plastic. And yeah, it's not about fear mongering. It's not about becoming, because we can, I think, become, I think I'm guilty of this. Like every time I say it, I'm like, no, don't put it in play. Like not being an alarmist, being calm. And as my
yes.
husband's like, calm down. And but just I think having just that being aware, like you do start to recognize it and to approach it from a calm place, like, okay, how can we minimize this? How can we support brands that are using less plastic? You know what I mean? Like it starts to ripple out into everything that we do. And just walking with that grounded awareness helps us to make informed decisions for ourselves, for our own lives, our families, and the environment. So yeah,
Sure.
it
Yeah.
feels
And I mean,
empowering.
and what you said is really important because it's really important to realize that we are never going to get to none, unfortunately.
Right.
But we can drastically reduce our exposure. I mean, we really can. We can really do a good job in lowering it. And different people maybe have different needs for how they might need to, lower their exposure. I mean, it may be that you're trying to conceive or you're pregnant. So maybe you want to, do a little bit more of the things, or maybe it matters to you because you just had a cancer diagnosis. And so you might be quicker or a little bit more cautious in what you're doing. But for most people, like everyday exposure is happening, unfortunately. And our bodies are really strong, though. I mean, we do actually fight off a lot of this stuff. That's what our bodies are meant to do.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And especially if you're doing kind of the other healthy lifestyle things, right? Like,
Yeah.
eating a plant-based diet, exercising, lowering stress, getting your sleep, your body's in a good position to repair and try to get rid of those exposures. So if we
Love
can
that.
lower it, like why not? It's about being aware and understanding that it's what can really be harmful, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself, is the chronic small doses that we experience every single day. Like,
Mhm.
let's say I don't know, plastic water bottles. I think a lot of people are aware of, how many microplastics go into the water bottle. And especially here in Thailand, it's hot. And
Right.
so you don't want to let the bottle sit in a hot car and drink from that. Now, if you had to, like once every 6 months or something, maybe it's okay, but it's something that you don't want to be doing every single day, 3 times a day, drinking from a hot plastic water bottle. So it's kind of about the dosage, kind of. I mean, the
Yeah.
chronic exposure, having a little bit every single day is kind of what adds up.
Yeah.
But just reducing, if it happens once in a while, it's like you say, don't freak out, don't panic, right?
Right.
Because you can't
Yeah.
avoid it.
Yeah,
But
I think that's such a good point, right? There are times when I have traveled and I've forgotten my water bottle. I'm like, do I want to be dehydrated or get some water? Like in that moment, yes, I'm going to choose water if the only option is plastic. Yeah, in that one time is not going to unravel the weeks of, lifestyle habits that I'm doing all the time, or, for anyone listening. But you also made a really good point. You got some parts on there. I think this resonated with a lot of people is that, um, it's really about the whole lifestyle, like everything you're doing that is so supportive of your health. Like when we implement healthy habits and build them as like a sustainable system into our lifestyle, whether it's taking a walk during the day, exercise, or any kind of exercise you enjoy, or getting out in nature, or eating a plant-based diet, all of these things support our body, which our body so innately knows what to do. It already has the tools to detox some of these or get rid of some of these chemicals that could be entering our bodies through water, through food, through packaging, whatever it is. But when we have these supportive lifestyle habits already in place, we are that much more efficient to not absorb these plastic chemicals, right? Is that what
yeah,
I think you're saying?
yeah, that is. And kind of, I also want to say there's kind of like three things that I wanted to talk about today that are really important in, if you know these three, how to say, like outlooks or three things, these three tricks,
Mm.
tips, hints, you can kind of go beyond the specific plastic items that we may mention while we're talking, right? Because there's a lot out there, and actually this topic is so vast. But there's three kind of tips, and that would be heat, acidity, and abrasion. So we're going to talk about those three things and mention, how to look at that, how to understand that. But those three things, like I just mentioned with the plastic water bottle, the heat, allows more plastic to actually leach into the water that you're drinking. So, a cold bottle that, didn't sit out in the car is going to have much less microplastics in it. And let's not forget there are nano and microplastics. So although they're really, really small. So, you know,
Right.
that, so
It's
yeah,
not something we would know or taste. They're there, but just knowing that that heat is one way of increasing them. We can take measures to not, if we are, drinking from plastic, if we have that option, try to choose the option of not keeping it in the heat, or, choosing something that's in cold storage. It's hard to know because when things are in
mhm.
transport,
That's
you
the other
don't know
point.
what. Yeah, and
Yes,
it's like hot here
exactly.
in Atlanta. Like I'm thinking about like where you are, right? In Thailand it's hot. So thinking about things on transport, you don't know. But again, you do your best and
Hmm.
just remember not to leave a hot water bottle in the car. My husband he gets these mints, um and he consumes them like on the regular. He just like throughout the day, he leaves them in the car and they're in a plastic container. And I was just saying this to him. I'm like, you should at least, as soon as you get it, transfer that. If you want to keep them in the car, because when he's going to meetings and stuff, he wants to have them readily accessible. At least put these
Uh,
in a glass storage container while they're sitting in the car, because we'll minimize maybe a little bit exposure that way.
I think that's true because I can remember, like, I first moved to Thailand in 2015. And I can remember, like, at that time, we were coming here on vacation a lot before then. And so you'd typically be picked up at the airport with a car, and they would have the water bottles in there. And, like, back then, like, I thought it tasted like plastic. I don't know. There was, like, something in my brain that didn't like it. I can't remember if I had read about it. I probably did because I'm kind of a weirdo that way. But it was kind of there, but I thought I was tasting plastic or it tasted kind of waxy. And
Yeah.
I always wondered if that was because it was a driver in a car who probably every customer or maybe most customers didn't take the water bottle.
Right.
So it could have been sitting there for 2, 3 weeks or a month before I had it. So
Interesting.
that it could have been there day after day, and I didn't know. Like, you don't know the chain of what it goes through to get to the end consumer, right?
Right.
But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So heat is one of them. And then also, so, plastic water bottles can be one example, but other ways, like, storing, we all, at least I know,
Food.
like in my age, like Tupperware was a thing forever. And now there's this where I think general awareness of like store your food in plastic or heat it, I mean, in glass and heat it in glass versus plastic. So, but can you talk a little bit more about that as well?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like you want to, if you can, I mean, like a lot of this again is like what people have accessible to them, right? Like what they could afford to change out or to do. But if it's accessible to you, if you can, even just a plate, like if you're microwaving something, put it on a ceramic plate rather than leave it in a plastic. Let's say you got takeout the night before. Well, when you get home the night before, I'd actually put it onto that plate and then microwave it on the plate, not in the takeout container, because that also can be a source of chemicals and micro and nanoplastics.
Yeah.
So,
And
that's a,
just, well, oh, sorry. And to that point, I recently had received samples of uh, plant-based meals that are in packaging, and it has instructions on the box. They're frozen plant-based meals that are ready to go, which can be great options when you're short on time and you want something that is fiber filled, but you don't have the time to prepare it. But the instructions said put the whole container. It had like a plastic wrap, and the container felt like paper, but I think it had like a plasticky coating on the inside,
they do.
something. Yeah. So what I did was I just dumped it all onto a ceramic dish and put a towel over top of it and heated it that way, or you can put it on the stovetop. But just, yeah, like another, just kind of thinking of, again, not going crazy, but just being aware. It was like, oh,
Well,
let
you're
me really
aware that you're
dump
heating
this.
it, right? So then that
Exactly.
caused your brain to say, okay, is there plastic involved? And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at is if it's going to be hot or if you're going to, let's say like a blender, right? A lot of the like the Vitamix or the blenders have a plastic a bowl. So, okay, maybe you might want to do your cold fruit smoothie in it, but don't pour your hot soup into it and blend the hot soup. You
Yeah.
might want to get an inexpensive immersion blender. And if you're cooking it in a stainless steel pot, then use the immersion blender to blend it up rather than,
Yes.
again, so it's thinking about that heat.
Yeah.
And then that also kind of gets into the abrasion, like in a blender, because it's grinding and it's hitting things. So then that also causes some of the plastic particles to maybe leach into the food.
So like any of that
It's more
friction.
especially with hard things in an abrasion situation.
Yeah. Well, I know, and I'm thinking about even like, well, like blending, I guess, like, okay, I'm gonna get into minutia with this. I probably shouldn't mention it, but I'm thinking like, when you blend things, it heats it, the food gets heated. Like I'll juice. Sometimes I take the easy road with juicing. I do like to juice, that's a whole nother topic, but like in the morning, I do like to make a juice, and because I eat a lot of fiber throughout the day. So I do a green juice in the morning with just like kale and celery and lemon. And but I think about like if I leave the blender on for a little bit longer than a minute, it starts to get hot.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is the friction and the heat in the blender? So now I'm thinking about like,
You're
okay,
right, though. I
minimize
mean,
that.
yeah, I mean, it's right to think about that, and that may be a long term. So I actually kind of have a guide on my link in bio about plastics and kind of
Mhm.
a staged way of doing this. But there's kind of like the quick wins, like we were just talking about, like put it on a ceramic plate. You probably have that at home, so you can change that without having to run out and buy something. But maybe buying Vitamix sells a stainless steel bowl, so you may want to invest in a stainless steel bowl for your Vitamix, or I also have, what is it? Is it a Nutra Bullet? I think it's a Nutra Bullet, and I found on one of the online platforms a stainless steel, uh, the small one. It's the one for the
Yeah,
smoothies and the
like the
juices.
individual. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's like a longer term solution because not maybe I think the Vitamix bowl is like 200 US, so it's
Oh,
maybe you got to save your pennies up, for a
yeah.
few months to
Add it
buy
to
that.
a birthday list or a Christmas list, or
There you
like
go.
holiday list if someone's willing to do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like long term. So yeah, it's good to like
It's long
maybe,
term. Yeah.
yeah, take inventory. of your kitchen and see. Can we answer a question just in case people have to go? And I
Yeah.
feel like it's related. Daniel is asking how much better is thicker plastic like Brita pitcher or storage. Also, he's thinking of all of the frozen fruit bags. I know some of it's just unavoidable, Daniel. It's true. Like, yeah, I mean, I've got frozen fruit bags in my kitchen too, and in my freezer too. And I think at some point. I think about my dog too. Like I wish I need to get to making her food probably from scratch, but we buy whole plant-based food and it comes in plastic bags. And every time I open one, I'm like, are they putting this food in this? Am I giving my dog? But like, again, we're giving her whole food
Welcome to
plant-based.
Thailand. That's how it is here. Like, I mean, there's all the street food and all the snacks and the takeaway for dinner. It's all in little plastic baggies. That's how they sell it. But to quickly answer this question, because, well, it's not really a quick answer, but it's a context answer, because there are different types of plastics. So the thinner plastics that maybe like a water bottle that leaches quite a bit. But then they also have these HDPE plastics. It's a higher density plastic. And that one is like kind of where what's in the cutting boards. So that's like a different type of plastic. Now, cutting board is a special situation because abrasion goes on in it. But the plastic itself is also used like in laundry detergent bottles. And I'm just trying to think, I don't know about the Brita pitcher in particular, but these higher density, this high density polyethylene plastic is one that does not like leach as much.
Yeah.
So it is better.
Yeah.
So, but it's a caveat. If it's like a blender, you're also getting the friction. So you're thinking about the friction rather than, the heat and the leaching. So there's a difference between the friction and the leaching. But yeah, there's so many different kinds of plastics, and there's like, BPA is technically a plastic that lines our cans, that we, try to avoid. And one thing about BPA is a lot of the cans nowadays might say BPA free, but they've been replaced with, that's a bisphenol. And so it's a bisphenol A, but they've been replaced with bisphenol F and bisphenol S's. So it's like, I don't know chemistry. I'm not a chemist, but these replacements are very similar and possibly even worse than BPA.
Nice.
So it's
all
kind
of
of like
greenwashing with like BPA free, but they're not telling us what's replaced it.
Very common. Yeah.
I wonder, like in that situation, and with Daniel's question with the Brita, because I also have I have AquaTrue, which is in a water filter, also in plastic, and it's a good question. I wonder about also Daniel, and I wonder if it just in that case, reaching out to the brand, if they were an honest brand and saying, what is the evidence of this plastic leaching into my water, or like what type of,
I would ask for the type of plastic because you can find a little bit more out with that. And it typically, like sometimes there are proprietary reasons, like pans are a good example of this. Ceramic pans, they don't want to tell you everything that it's made of. So we don't really know, is it 100% better? Which is typically why I lean into stainless steel or cast iron or carbon steel. I don't really like ceramics so much because there's no brand out there that I know of that tells you they say it's a proprietary secret, that they can't release what they're making it because someone would copy them, which may be true, but it also leaves the consumer not knowing exactly what they're using. So if there's something like that, they may say, we can't tell you, but it's good to find out what the materials are. I'm just not familiar with that particular water pitcher. But the higher ones, don't leach as much, the higher density ones.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, and then the frozen fruit bags and stuff, and like the bag, there's so much sold in plastic when even when you're getting bulk seeds and nuts, and there's so much that's stored in plastic if we're purchasing them from the grocery store. There's really not a lot. I usually transfer mine to. I've got like a gazillion. I was saying earlier before you hopped on. I have so many of these glass jars. I transfer everything to those glass jars as soon as I get home. But and for the frozen fruit. I mean, what do you do in that case? I typically just leave it in my freezer
Yeah, I
and
mean, I
yeah,
think the frozen fruit I leave in the bags that they come in. That's how they come.
yeah,
But I kind of, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it's frozen. It's not, and I'm not cutting it. It's not abrasive. So it's cooler, right? And
yeah,
at the beginning, I said we're not going to avoid everything. So we're
right.
looking for those places with the heat, the abrasion, and then. What else was I going to talk about? The
The last one, that acid.
acid, yes. So that's the tomato sauces and your orange juices. So things that are acidic kind of act, to pull out the microplastics too.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of if you think about it, one of the worst types of foods is like a tomato sauce because it's acidic and maybe we heat it up for pasta sauce or
Mm-hmm.
soup. We also, it might have oil in it. So, actually, fat is another thing that will tend to interact with some of the plastics because if you think about Tupperware, like, I'm old enough to remember Tupperware parties and have been to many Tupperware parties. I'm going to be 60 next month. So, like, my
Amazing.
childhood home was filled with Tupperware. And,
Same.
basically, like, just think about the orange Tupperware your mom had, you know, when you were growing up. So that was because you had the acid, you had the heat, you had fat from the olive oil that was in there. And those plastics are actually kind of made with something that is attracted to fat. And so it kind of leaches both ways. The reason that the containers become stained is that the color from the tomatoes going in, but it's also leaching out the microplastics.
Oh,
So that's again why we
interesting.
want to go back to those glass plates and containers.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought of why they might be stain. Right, they have that everlasting stain on them.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know some. We've all, I'm sure, had plastic containers in our kitchen at some point or now. I still have like some that I bought because they had color coded lid. They make them look attractive too. So without knowing the potential harmful effects of them, but I use them. I also don't want to throw them in the landfill. Like I struggle with this all the time. I don't know how you feel,
Yes.
but like I
I
don't want to
agree.
throw them
I'm
out.
like the same thing. Like Dalit will say to me, "Why do we still have this plastic? Like I thought we're not supposed to have plastic." And it's like, but I also don't want to put it in the landfill.
Right. Like, yeah. So, like, what can we do? Yeah. So, some I use for bug catchers. Like, I just have like plastic and, smaller takeout containers that I've had. And whenever we find a bug, I'm like, I have the lid, put it as easy, export
Oh,
the
that's
bug
good.
back outside. But sometimes I'll put, like, if it's cold, if I have, I mentioned juicing earlier, so I'll take like the stems of like kale, like food scraps, but I put a non-treated like parchment paper at the bottom, and it's not hot, but I'll have like, if I have big containers and I'm all out of glass, I will store some of my food scraps in there, not hot, like produce or whatever that I'm going to throw in my juice, throw in to make juice, but I'll put a parchment lined sheet so it's like the plastic's not
Ah,
actually touching the food, so and then it goes in the fridge. So I'm wondering if
yeah.
that's like a good solution or a way to use it. I don't know.
It's better, but just so you know, there is a type of plastic on a lot of the coatings. So you kind of have to be informed of those bake sheet coating things and what
Yes.
it's. Some manufacturers don't, so it's out there. You can find them that they don't. But that's getting into the weeds, right? Like
It
that's like
is.
like you're a senior in college and you're like trying
Right.
to manage that type of thing. Most people I think can do better with probably thinking like, oh, I don't want to buy the the tomato pasta sauce in a BPA lined can if I can find a glass one. That might be a better alternative.
For sure.
That you can get a quick win, right? Like you can feel like you're doing something, and you know, I don't want to make it so complicated for people because,
Yeah.
yeah, it
No,
is.
I agree. It's really important. And that's really the point of all of this. I think, especially getting started, I know when I first started, it was just about getting switching out some of my plastic utensils, like getting rid of,
Exactly.
there wasn't a use for them. So I ended up getting rid of them, ditching them. I don't know what I did with them, but, getting a few wooden or stainless steel, that was like the first step because yeah, like first starting out, it can be overwhelming. So, but that can be depending on where you are, it could be a potentially, cost effective way, even if it's just one utensil the one that you most commonly use and,
Exactly.
getting
Yeah.
that out and switching
Yeah,
using
I
this.
mean, and that's the thing that goes again to daily use. If you're using one particular spatula and you're cooking at home because you're eating healthier, so you cook at home 3 times a day and you're always using that spatula, replace that spatula, right? But,
Right.
if you have, ceramic pan, maybe that you don't know what the material is and you use it twice a month, it doesn't matter as much, right? So
Right.
you kind of have to prioritize your own lifestyle and what you use the most often. And even with food, like maybe there are people out there who buy canned beans. It's still in that plastic coated BPA can, but if you're eating them every day, maybe you don't. Might want to consider cooking your own beans. But
Right.
if you're eating them once a month or once a week, hopefully at least once a week, maybe the cans are okay, right? Or if it's for a quick meal where you forgot to soak your beans last night and so you've got it. But
Yeah.
it's just not your everyday go-to because the person who's eating it every day is going to have a lot more exposure than someone who's eating it once a month or something.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. It's such a good way to think about it, like thinking about the things that you consume and use on a daily basis and maybe starting there with one thing. And then, as you have more resources or the ability to swap out more, you can just having this awareness in your pocket is so helpful. So thank you.
Exactly.
Would you like to move on to, I know we're going to try to limit this, but we have a question and
Okay.
do you have time for a question?
Sure. I'm good.
Daniel has another great question. Thanks for the questions, Daniel. And anyone else who's tuning in, if you want to ask any questions, we're going to take a minute or two to answer them. Daniel says that so many products advertise that they have sea salt in them. Do you avoid microplastics? How to avoid microplastics and sea salt? Is that something you avoid, Michelle, or recommend avoiding?
Well, I'm kind of SOS free, so I'm kind of not going into, eating a lot of my salt, although I think there's probably one or two things I probably use a little bit when I'm baking. I think for the salt, I don't know. I haven't heard that it's in the salt itself, but I guess I'm thinking it's probably the manufacturing, because the one thing I was aware of that I was going to mention on this call is your salt and pepper grinders at home, because a lot of the mechanisms in them that do the grinding are plastic. So you want to look for ones
Interesting.
that have a metal mechanism. So I guess something sturdier probably,
Yeah.
to grind your pepper and your salt. So I guess this question is probably getting back with how they process it and make it. So that does sound like a thing to me. I had never thought of it that way. But
Yeah.
yeah, so makes sense.
Yeah, that is a great question, Daniel. And it may be,
It's good.
again, something to ask look at the brand content. I'm a big believer in getting to the brands if you can trust them. I think if there's third party testing, that can help. I don't know if sea salt companies do third party testing, but again, it's hard looking at those like macro things that we're doing and minimizing there, and then maybe getting down to like the layers of like the salt. Are there mass microplastics in the salt, and making some choices as you go along. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, that was
Um,
a really good question. Yeah.
Miss Pony Pony asks, another great question. What about silicone utensils like ladles and spatulas? Are there different types of silicone? And if yes, which are most safe?
Yes, you want to look for some that are labeled food grade silicone. And these again are better used in cool or not high heat situations. So they are tested, so they are like certified safe to about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it is. I want to say maybe it's 500, but I think something new came out and lowered it that it was 400 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, like this is a complicated one because there are people within the industry who are concerned about plastics, like that's why they get into making silicone. And they've kind of said that, yes, it is safe to use in the oven because, they have like those muffin tins and bread
Yes.
pans that allow you to cook without butter or oil, right? Because it's easy to pop out. And so they say to use that. But then there's other schools of thought saying that it is a type of plastic. Silicone technically isn't a plastic, but it's a type
Okay.
of plastic. It's a gray area. So I think
Mm.
my take on it and the way I look at it and use it is it's fine for cooking in my pan and stirring. I don't mind doing that because I don't cook at high heat. And
Right.
also, if I bake, I tend to bake longer at a cooler temperature,
Oh,
and
interesting.
not
Okay.
a high heat. Like put it in there for 10 minutes and it's done.
Right.
So it's a little bit nuanced, but I would say, yeah, they're like for the ice cube trays and stuff, it's fine. They
Okay.
are tested to be food grade, and I don't think anybody, especially if you're starting out and you're not, um, digging into the research and looking at all the nuance on it. It's like nutrition information, right? There's a lot of nuance on some things.
Yes.
So it kind of almost is like often we say compared to what? Are eggs
Right.
healthy compared to what? So I think silicone is fine overall for cooler situations.
A better choice than plastic. But maybe if you have the
Mm-hmm.
option, if you are going to make some changes after this call, you have the option between silicone, stainless steel, and wooden
Mm-hmm.
cooking utensils. Maybe you opt for stainless steel or wooden just to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea because I pretty much only use my spatula in my Thermomix, in my blender. So, to kind of get it out of the bottom and the nooks and crannies. And I have a Thermomix is like a Vitamix, but it also heats food. So I can do like stir fries and soups and stuff inside of it. So
Mhm.
I'll use the spatula for that because a hard wooden spoon doesn't really get anything out. But
Right.
I don't really use it for anything else that's hot.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Michelle. You are a wealth of knowledge in this area. I feel like we can keep talking, but I'll let you move on with it's almost your bedtime here, so I don't want to steal your whole evening.
You
I know.
probably need to go to your real work.
Oh yeah, but this has been a great way to start the day. So thank you. I feel so much more informed, and I hope that you all listening in feel more informed. It really is just about being informed and knowing as you move forward and you're making some healthy swaps in your kitchen, for yourself and your family, and if you need to purchase new things, what to look for and some things. So thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your knowledge and your experience. It's been so helpful. And also one nod to plants, because you mentioned earlier, I don't know if you've seen, but there's some emerging research about the fiber in plants helping to grab onto that
Flush it
plastic, any
out.
chemicals, and flush it out. So just another bonus to eating more plant-based foods.
Yes, definitely, for sure. And just a little bit of a tangent, eating the animal-based foods, the plastics, and a lot of the other toxins in our environment do bioaccumulate in the animal fat. So, even though there's plastics in everything, there's a lot more in the animal products.
Yeah.
So you're
Well, it's just
lowering
like,
your
right,
exposure.
like fish
Yeah.
in the ocean, we hear about all the time that especially when they're higher up on that food chain, they're eating all these other fish that are consuming some of those microplastics in the ocean. And the fish that have the most plastics or toxins are, yeah, those that are at the top of the food chain. So it's very similar when you think about it that way. When we eat closer to the ground, we're getting more. And then you have the addition of that fiber in the plant-based foods that can help us to kind of move it
Right.
through. it's helpful.
Right.
And then we can minimize what we can. Like you said, we can't avoid it altogether, but at least minimize what we can so we can make empowered decisions for our health.
And it makes a difference. It truly does. I mean, like, I don't want to, just say like minimize is some like wishy-washy, like, oh, we should try to do it. No, it actually does help with health outcomes.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing.
yeah, it shouldn't be
Amazing.
overwhelming. Just minimize.
Yes, yes. Do your best. Thank you,
So,
Michelle. And also, where can people find you and your resource?
So if you go to my Instagram bio here at our.conscious.kitchen, if you do my link in bio, you will see my download to how to start reducing plastic in the kitchen. And that will give you a checklist that goes over some of the things that we've talked about, but then there's some additional details and things, and you'll be on my email list and be able to communicate with me, and you can follow me. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
You're
So
so
thank you,
inspiring.
Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you. I appreciate you connecting about this, and maybe we can do a part 2 someday and talk about additional ways to reduce. But yeah,
And I
thanks
appreciate
everybody.
you too. I didn't get a chance to say, I'm excited to be on with my, cooking teacher here from
Oh,
Food Revolution Network,
oh,
and, yeah, so this was inspiring for me too. So thank you.
great.
This was
Grateful
a lot
for
of
Food
fun.
Revolution Network for connecting us. So grateful to them. Thank you. All right. Thanks everybody for
Okay.
tuning in. Enjoy your day or
Thank you guys.
evening. And yeah, thanks, Michelle.
Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye.